what do you do? What can you do when your partner has fallen out of love or you have fallen out of love, right? The first thing I would tell you to do, stop your old patterns of living. Do it. Look, take a step back, become aware. How is your life? Is it get up, work, TV, bed, get up, work, TV, bed? There's nothing that connects you. There's no dating. There's no time for just confiding in each other. There's no time for intimacy. And by intimacy, I don't mean sexual intimacy. I mean intimacy where you actually open up and become vulnerable to each other. And you start to share your hearts with each other. You listen to each other's hurts and pains. Dr. John Gottman's called these love maps. I refer to these, the things you want to know about your partner. We use a skill called the daily touch point to identify those things. Different people have different ways of doing this. The key to bonding is confiding. But sometimes when you know those old patterns, you quit confiding in each other. You quit sharing your dreams and hopes and your wishes and your hurts and your frustrations, the things you want in your life, the things you want different. We just don't share those anymore. First thing is step back, stop the old patterns of living. If you're going to stop an old pattern, you got to create a new pattern, right? That's obvious. Also, ask yourself this question. What are my blind spots? It's easy to point out Luella's issues. Do I have blind spots? Of course, we all do. But because they're blind spots, I wouldn't know what they are. How would you know what your blind spots are when you're blind to them? I got an answer for that too. Go ask other people. What do you see in me? Hey, if you notice me with my wife, how do you see me with her? And if you really have the courage, ask your spouse, how do I come across? When I'm this way, what message does it send you? Ask them questions. I'm going to tell you something. This is very, very important. If you know what your blind spots are, my mentor said to me once a long time ago, the way you think you come across is not the way you do come across. The way you think you're being experienced is not the way you are being experienced. And what people do is we defend how we think we are or believe we are, but in the end, it's how you are that matters, not how you think you are. There is a disconnect for a lot of people between how they believe they are and actually how they are. When those two things are congruent, you're pretty healthy and mature. And so one of the things I began to do is I began to watch Luella's behaviors. I would watch her eyes. Let's say we were in a conversation about something. And if I saw her start to get defensive or, start to shut down, I learned that actually that I'm seeing right there might actually be caused by me. I actually might be causing that behavior. Think about it this way. How do you know what you look like? Well, the answer people give is a mirror. I say, no, that's not an answer. And I can prove it because you also know what you look like by a glass door, your car window, a blacked out eye patching, and water. All those things show you what you look like. How do you know what you look like? The answer is reflection. All those things actually reflect what you look like. So here's what I learned a long time ago. Because those things reflect what I look like, I've also learned that Luella reflects who I am being in a moment through her body language. Her body language reflects what I'm being. So rather than blame her, if I saw her get defensive or start to shut down, what I would do is say, wait a minute, hang on a minute. How am I coming across right now? She might say, you really want to know? I go, I really want to know. And she would say, manipulative. You want to take a deep breath because you might get triggered in defensiveness. And I don't want to be defensive. I want to be teachable, which is mature. And I would say, and what am I doing that sends that message, sweetheart? And she said, well, you're doing A, B, C, D, and E. And I go, when I do A, B, C, D, and E, that sends you the message I'm being defensive? She goes, yeah. You know what I did in that moment? I would say, would you forgive me? I don't want to come across that way. I would never want to come across as manipulating you. And I learned something about myself. I learned how I'm coming across. Remember, my mentor told me, the way you think you come across, not the way you do come across, the way you think you're being experienced is not the way you are being experienced. Those blind spots. And that is one of the ways that I began to get a sense of how I'm perceived, how people see me. What do you want from your partner? Do you know what you want from them? Is it patience? Is it acceptance? Is it approval? Is it affection? Is it comfort? What are you actually looking for from them? You need to know what those things are. All right, so what can you do? Number 2, now actually all those are parts. Stop old patterns of living. What are your blind spots? Blind spots create patterns, right? What do you want from them? Sometimes the things that we want, we get into negative patterns trying to get it from them. All right, number 2, and this is going to be tough if you've lost those love and feelings. Make your spouse and your marriage a priority. Make your spouse and your marriage a priority. That means you have to have on some level a desire for your marriage and your desire to want it to work, a hope still that it could happen. Make them a priority and not yourself. I've already said in much of my talks over the years, the most important part of marriage is not the husband and wife. It's the third part of the marriage. Third part wins, you both win. That's the idea of us. Us wins, you both win. Us loses, you both lose. two to make an us, one to kill it. And the way you know that us is in the house is you feel it. You can feel when us is in the house. You feel the warmth, you feel the tenderness. And so when you start to make us a priority, you're going to make your spouse a priority. And so begin to focus on, well, what are their needs? Start appreciating them. Start recognizing that they do things around you that you take for granted, like I did. And I realized in my 19th year of marriage, I don't want to take those things for granted anymore. Here's another one. What if you took a risk and started flirting again? What if you took a risk and just started flirting again? Well, what if they reject me? Okay, they're not rejecting you. They're just being who they are in the moment. Well, it feels like rejection. Yeah, it might, but you can still be healthy enough. Start becoming flirty again. And this is key. Start talking every day about each other's day. Now, we have a skill in our work, Relate Well, called a touch point. It's a daily skill for connecting, all right? Talk about their interests. Start confiding in each other. Take a risk and share your hopes and dreams and aspirations and fears. Something bad happened to work or something good happened to work. Share with them. Read something in the newspaper or saw online. Share with each other and show interest in the things that interest them. Why? Because marriage is not all about you. It's about us. And so I would also say, make your spouse a priority. And then number 3, what you can do, and this is going to be tough, start to become emotionally present for each other. So you can mourn with them, so you can rejoice with them, so you can comfort them, so you can hear their perspectives and care. And number 4, and this is very, very important, particularly if your spouse has lost the love and feelings, don't force intimacy and connection. Don't guilt it. Don't shame it. Don't manipulate it, because all you're going to do is give them further justification to not love you, to continue to lose the feelings of love and fall out of love. Don't force intimacy. To reconnect, rebuild, it just takes time. And here's what I've learned. Humility is a very powerful way to live life. And in humility, you can develop patience. Patience is a great virtue. And if you have a problem with patience, great place to learn patience. Walmart, I always jokingly say it, but I think it's true. 25 checkout stands, only one is open. Great place to practice patience. Begin to practice patience so that it becomes a trait for you, that you're just a patient person, all right? But don't force intimacy, sexual intimacy, or even emotional intimacy. Let it happen in time, but do some of the, make changes for yourself so you can become the person you want, all right? Next, accept that you might have to rebuild the friendship first. Did you get that? Nothing to do. You might want to accept that you might have to build a friendship first. It may not be the sexual part, the romantic part. It may have been so damaged, you got to build your friendship back. You know, one thing that I've always said, if I was ever to leave the well or allow our marriage to be destroyed, what I would miss is our friendship. We were friends for 2.5 years before we got married. We only dated maybe 3 months, and then we got engaged, and we were married six months later. But we had a great friendship, and I didn't want to lose that. I don't ever want to lose that friendship with her. Don't ever want to lose that friendship. It's the foundation for any healthy marriage or relationship. Now, next, what can you do? Learn how to communicate in healthy ways. Relate Well teaches you how to do that. There's other programs out there as well. But learn to communicate in healthy, mature ways. So you can listen to each other. You can be slow to anger and quick to hear. So you can speak your truth with goodwill and love and respect, you see. And they can hear you with empathy. Next thing you can do is remind yourself why you fell in love with this person in the first place. Why did you love them in the first place? Can you remember the days of dating? Can you remember those early years? What was it about them that brought so much joy and pleasure into your life? And here's a question. Are any of those things still present to any degree? Are any of those things still present to any degree? Remind yourself why you love this person in the first place. Remember the good times. You know, in couples, when one person starts to fall in love or they're in conflict and there's just, there's not a sense of usness, what happens is the brain tends to focus on all the negative things in the history, but they forget there are positive things back there as well, because the brain just wants to focus on the negatives. Got it? But if you gave yourself permission to step back a minute and just think about it, there are positive things back there as well. Next, start doing things that you both would enjoy. Now, maybe not something you like, but maybe the relationship like it. Example, in my talk around us, like I don't like malls, but us likes them all. I don't like the beach, but us will go to the beach. Luella does not like battlefields. You know, back here behind me, I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. You can see a lot of my military stuff back there. Marine Corps, Navy. You can see over here some flags. I think it's over there. That way, some flags. I've got a lot of military stuff. I love the military, but Luella would never go to a battlefield. Ever. Won't do it. But us will go to a battlefield. Start doing some things that you both can share together. It may not be something you would do, but you'd be willing to do for us. What this says is, hey, usually a lot of couples, I have my interest, she has her interest, but there are no us interests. What would us do? And us would do things that you wouldn't do. That makes sense? And then, so you develop new interest, something that you both can share, something that us would do. And the next thing you can actually do, and this is going to be very important, take it slow, but develop being affectionate with each other, hand holding, arms around each other, not necessarily being sexual. Sometimes you may have to put off the sex just to build back the affection. And that's tough, I know, for a lot of guys and some women. But sometimes the relationship is really more about the affectionate touch, sitting on the couch, holding each other's hands, being close to each other. One of the things I always enjoy is end of the day, Laura comes home and she's pretty tired from her long day doing retail in the school uniform shop she works at. She's on her feet. She'll tell me, I walked 5 miles or I walked 6 miles today just in that store on her feet. She's got one of those Fitbit things, right? I'm always tracking it. And I say, come over here. She'll sit on the couch and I said, take your shoes off, and she'll put her feet on me and I'll just massage her feet for her. She loves it. I do it for her and I do it for me. I like touching her and it's just affectionate. Next thing you can do is do regular thoughtful things for your spouse, things that they enjoy. My bride likes yellow roses. I learned the hard way. All right. Yellow roses. I get her yellow roses. I send her a voicemail message every day saying, hey, I'm thinking of you. I love you. How are you doing? And this is the last one and very important as well. Don't blame your spouse for the distance. They may have lost their love and feelings, but don't blame them completely for the distance. You've already learned, maybe you can, from earlier, earlier we talked about what are the things that you've done? How have you contributed to this? Own your parts as well. And my thoughts are, if you begin to think in terms of these strategies that you can do, you could build the relationship back, in time. It can happen. Well, my hope is on some small level, this is giving you what are the signs, and then what can you do if you or your spouse are falling out of love? And remember, just because you fell out of love doesn't mean love's still not inside of you. It just means you can't feel it right now. But you can get those love and feelings back, because I've seen it happen with thousands of couples over all the years I've been doing this work. I'm 59 years old. I live it myself. I raised my kids on these principles. That's how much I believed in them, because I wanted my children to have healthy, mature adults when they became adults.